fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't have to fight.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Just Chill with Oliver George. This is episode number 58, and I have a very funny man sitting across from me. But before we get to the guest, I want to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube right now and you would prefer audio only, you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many other places like that. If you were listening on one of those, though, and you didn't know there was a visual side to this show, then please come check it out on YouTube. While you're there, if you would subscribe, it would really, really help out. We're 8 people away from finally hitting 1,000 last time I checked. So if you want to help, reach that milestone, it really would mean a lot to me. If you want to reach out to me, maybe with a cool guest idea or just some general feedback about the show, you can hit me up at justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. And if you want to use that same email to hit me up, we now have some merch available. These cool foil stickers with the show logo. So $5 for one, or five for 20 is the other deal. So if you are interested in any way, just hit me up at that email. Now back to the guest, the man of the hour, as I say. It's Greg Houston.
Hello. Hey, buddy.
How are you, man?
I'm very good. How are you?
Pretty good. I mean, I feel like you're one of these guys that I've met you many times at shows, but I don't know. We don't know each other that well. So I'm happy to have this opportunity to get in.
Yeah,
really deep on the friendship
I'm excited.
Here.
This is the first time I've been in your basement studio lair.
Lair is a good word for it. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very excited. Be on the episode. Just chill, baby. Get those stickers. Let's just chill.
Yeah, I didn't know how to go with merch because I don't want to be like pushing it too hard. I don't want to be that guy like some used car salesman.
Yeah, I don't have merch. I had business cards like way too early when I started because I had like a business card hookup.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't merch, but they were made out of canvas, which was kind of cool.
That is nice. That speaks to professional quality, yeah.
Well, I just knew a guy that had a lot of canvas.
But I think there's a lot of comics that do that, right? Because I did that. I did like one show, and then I was like, gotta go to Staples.
Yeah. Everyone makes cards way too early, and that's fine. And it's just like you learn later that like, oh, I didn't need to do that at all. But
it's the right kind of enthusiasm, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it creates a false or eventual professionalism too, because it's like you're kind of faking until you make it, right?
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a big part of all this. I mean, this, I don't know how many. I don't think I'm ever going to reprint these, so I think it's kind of cool for the real fans of my show. There are a few to have this kind of limited edition.
Yeah.
So merch is one of those things though that you feel like a point comes and you're like, okay, I guess I'm at that point. I should do something, but. It's a whole other headache, really.
It's a lot. And, like, it's tough, too, like, if you're not headlining every show to, like, try and sell merch. Like, oh, I was just an opener, but I got a T-shirt or I got a whatever and buy this stuff. And people are like,
by that,
yeah, who are you again? Like,
yeah. I've never done it for comedy. No, this is the first merch of anything other than the business cards we were discussing. Yeah. But that was more of just a hookup trying to meet people.
It
wasn't really
networky.
Like flexing like, oh, I'm so huge or something,
Yeah.
Well, man, since I don't know that much about you, I know that you're an Ottawa comic and I've met you before, but I also know that you did the move to Toronto, which happens with a lot of Ottawa comics that are doing well, and you seem to be doing great out there as well.
Thank you.
So what prompted that, though, specifically? You just felt like that calling?
I started a comedy in Ottawa in 2012, basically. And so I moved to Toronto in 2018.
Okay.
And so it's just kind of like, I've been doing comedy this long. I've been doing this many gigs here, and I had been producing a lot too, like leading up to my move. And it was kind of a situation of more feeling like I was spinning my wheels than anything. And I have family closer to Toronto, so I was like, oh, I think I could move to Toronto and be closer to my family.
2 birds with one stone.
Yeah, do comedy, and like I had have a day job that I was able to just do remotely from there. So I was like, okay, we'll just go to Toronto. And
did you find like it was a bit of a shock to the system to now be in a place with that many more comedians and that many more high level comedians, or did you feel like kind of, oh yeah, I do deserve to be here?
Yes, no, not shock in like the sense of like whoa, overwhelming or anything, because like early in my career too, I started traveling to Montreal and Toronto often.
So you just frequented.
Yeah, I would put together like a week or so at a time in one city or the other, like a couple times a year, just basically 2 years into comedy, even though I had whatever, like 2 minutes of material, it was just like go network, do bad shows, make friends and stuff like that. And like I made friends from Montreal of like one of my best friends, Chris Sandiford, is like from just randomly messaging him. He had a Tuesday night open mic level show in Montreal. And it was like, hey, can I do your show? And like they put me on and like this guy's great. And then like a couple of years later, like they're doing a weekend takeover of a club in Montreal. So I get to come down for the weekend and stuff.
Sweet.
And yeah, so it was like I had been networking and like quote unquote touring around to Montreal and Toronto.
That would make the move a lot easier. Yeah, you wouldn't be so terrified.
Yeah, I felt very established as an out of town act / like person that comes through occasionally. So like it didn't feel overwhelming or anything. But that being said, it was also like, oh, now I can walk into a gig and probably see 1 or 2 headliners that are like best in Canada.
Yeah.
On any show, any night in Toronto. And it's like, and like sometimes it's free, sometimes very cheap. And it's just like, oh, and then you watch them and you're like, oh, I get why they're headliners.
Yeah.
And
So you had even more opportunities to just keep growing as a comedian
Yeah.
through exposure to the best of the best.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So now you're doing another move. That's a big one.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that more later, but just you are moving to London, England. I wanted to know just how did that come about? That seems like a big decision.
It was something that, again, just like touring around or whatever, I'd started to go to London over the past couple of years before COVID and stuff, and really liked my time there, like really liked doing gigs there, really liked the scene a lot. And again, it was like the huge scene, lots of crazy headliners there and stuff, but also just because of the size and density of the city, like there's so many gigs of all different levels. So I was able to like do horrible gigs and like some good ones and like some clubs and stuff like that. And it was really fun. And so it was just something in the back of my head for the past couple of years, especially after going to Edinburgh in 2019.
Oh, they have a big comedy festival there, eh?
Yeah, the Fringe Fest there's, I want to say 2,000 shows or 3,000 shows happening in 1 month, and it happens for like 30 days.
Crazy.
So they get, in normal times, like 8 million people go through that city for the festival.
And big names come through too.
Oh yeah. Well, you got like BBC like doing one-off shows in like theaters and stuff, or like old castles or whatever. And then you also have, it's kind of like Fringe here in the sense that like you have a Fringe society like putting on festival and picking, let's say, 200 acts or shows or whatever, and doing like an hour show like from noon into like 1 a.m. and stuff. Like one time I did do like a 1:30 a.m. gig, and it was like, oh, this is a bad gig for the 3 people and 2 of them are comics. But
brutal. You hear that with bands all the time too, that end up being huge, and they're like, "Yeah, we used to play for the cocktail waitress."
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know, the bouncer or whatever.
yeah, and again, like in that one too, like the one I'm thinking of, like the straight up made friends that like I still have over there from like just staying in touch on Instagram and stuff, and like
That's cool.
buddies. Like once I move over there, I'm sure we'll be able to hang out.
Well, and you get to be, maybe this is just me, but you kind of get to be cool out of town guy, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
everybody loves it. I feel like if we had a British performer in Ottawa, everyone would know that person.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
unless they were terrible, but it just gives you kind of like a bit of a leg up on the competition, just because you're unique to them instantaneously.
100%. Yeah. No, and that's like another reasoning too to move of like, oh, I'm a much more unique voice in the UK and stuff. Like here I'm a white bearded straight cis comedian schlubby chubby guy that, like there's a whole lot of me
Over there, you at least get an accent.
He talks funny, what's
Yeah.
with this guy? And like obviously my perspective is going to be very different from like a regular UK person kind of thing.
Yeah,
too.
that's true.
Yeah.
No, that's a great dynamic to be bringing to it, man.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the luck.
Thank you.
I was going to say this for later, but let's do it now. I have a list of British slang,
Ooh.
and I wanted to test your lingo knowledge, and I'm going to do it this way. So, Dad, you can, when you want to unmute your mic, because my dad, born in England, actually, as like a baby, he didn't live there for long, but he's been back many times. So if you can't get one of these, I'll defer to him.
Okay.
And if he can't, then I'll give it up.
Then we'll throw it out. We'll get rid of her.
So, and maybe, I don't know how much research you've been doing. Have you done?
Not a lot.
Okay. What do you think it is if someone is chuffed?
Oh, they're peeved at you. They're a little mad. They're a little hot under the collar.
According to what I have, that is incorrect.
Uh-oh.
So, Dad, you know this one?
Yeah, it means you're feeling really great about them. the opposite.
It said
Chuff means
proud
you're
is what I...
proud.
Proud?
There you go.
You're
So, I know it
chuffed?
sounds negative,
That's
right?
stupid.
It's close
I'm
to
changing
chafed.
it.
You're
I'm gonna
changing
go
it.
over there and be like, "Hey, I'm chuffed at all you people," and they're like, "Oh, we like you." And I'm like, "No, it means I'm mad now."
Taking it back, yeah. What does it mean if someone's lost the plot?
Oh, that I'm pretty sure is from every Ocean's 11 movie. It's said at one point probably.
Oh, really? Okay.
But by Don Cheadle because he's British in it.
Okay.
That's if I believe lost the plot is someone is talking out their butt or regularly confused or kind of like
yeah, I'll give that
yeah.
one to you. It says gone crazy is what I had. It's like losing your mind. He's
Yeah.
lost the plot. Okay, what about, what's a kip? K-I-P.
KIP Kip.
It's not a guy named Kip.
Yeah. It could be like eating something, going for a kip.
You know that?
I think it means staying somewhere, doesn't it? This is where I'm going to kip.
I have it's a sleep or a nap.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Go for
Oh,
a kip.
going for a kip.
Take a kip. Yeah, I don't know how obscure some of these are. They might be regional.
That's fine. I like
That's
it.
not obscure. That's so well known one.
Okay,
I just
okay.
couldn't remember it well.
What am I talking about if I say a dog's dinner?
You're quoting Gordon Ramsay for sure. That's what do you call this? It's a dog's dinner. It's bad food.
I guess that it's not really literally.
I think it's a real mess.
Yes, which could be bad food, which I kind of want to give you like a 0.5 there. This one I had never heard. What is a chav?
Oh,
C-H-A-V.
Chav is a lad. He's a lad. Lads. Chav is like someone from the, I believe, the Midlands or the middle of UK that is probably wearing a one-piece soccer gear or athletic gear,
Okay.
smokes some cigarettes, has a shaved head, and is very boisterous and loud, probably into some crimes.
That feels pretty close to the dead. Do you know?
I have no idea. I never heard that before.
It's white trash is what I have as the definition.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah. Well, when you said the Midlands, I'm like, I don't fucking know the geography, what that means. But yeah, I would say with the into crime and everything else.
Yeah.
What's a plonker?
A plonker?
First of all, I love half of these words. They're just fun to
I
say.
mean, that's what I'm going to say whenever a joke bombs for sure to an audience. Like,
sounds
sorry,
like
that was
someone's
a
taking a shit.
plonker.
Yeah.
It's probably like some rich bloke or a blokeette from London.
Do you know this one, Dad? A plonker? Someone's a real plonker?
I would have said something similar about some guy who's a bit of a doofus, a bit slow maybe.
It's an idiot, yeah. So, a toff, T-O-F-F.
That feels like a slur. I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
I feel like you're getting these last two mixed up almost.
I know this one. A toff is like upper crust fellow.
It's like, upper class person. What are bants?
Bants?
Bants.
I believe that's short for banter.
Yes.
And so if
Friendly joking,
Yeah,
essentially.
joking around.
That was a bit of an easy one. What is a ledge? Something is ledge.
I guess that's short for legendary, but
It's generally a famous or successful person.
yeah,
So
that
a
feels like
celebrity.
it's also from the How I Met Your Mother era.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God. That was a good show until it wasn't.
Yeah,
The last few
basically.
seasons were ugh.
Until they realized, oh wait, we only planned like 3 seasons.
Which happens like with Lost is another great example where they kind of just kept writing by the seat of their pants and then the last season was just a dumpster
Which
fire.
is why I respect like BBC comedy or BBC shows where they're just like, no, we've got 3 series and that's it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Check out when you're in your prime. What about honking? What are you doing if you're honking?
If you're honking,
Sounds like molesting. That's what I take it
I
as.
know what snogging is, but I don't think it's that. But it could be that. So I'm gonna say honking. Maybe you're just drinking at a sports match. Let's say.
No. What do you know this one?
No clue.
It's vomiting.
Oh.
He went and started honking in the bushes or whatever. What does it mean if it's monkeys outside? This one I do not understand how they came to this conclusion, but
Okay, monkeys outside. Is this Cockney rhyming slang?
no,
possibly?
I made sure to leave those out.
Okay,
because those are just
I
bananas.
like Cockney rhyming slang. It's crazy.
It's cool though. Yes,
But yeah,
I agree.
I wish I could learn how to speak like that. That'll be my goal.
I just assume those would be so hard to guess, right? Like
They're insane because you have to.
I heard one that was having a butcher's. Oh, he's having a butcher's because butcher's hook. He's having a look.
Yes, exactly.
What the fuck?
So it has to rhyme with the thing and then be a yeah.
But why?
It's
I guess
so
if you're
weird.
like in the war and you need a code language, but otherwise it just seems like you're just doing it to fuck with people.
Oh yeah, it's just in group, out group, malarkey.
So if it's monkeys outside,
I think it's. I want, my gut says, oh, it's probably raining. So I'm going to go opposite and say it's beautiful outside and that the monkeys would be out and playing around
that's
for
what it
some
should
reason.
be. What do you think, Dad?
No idea.
It means it's very cold outside, which is like right.
Monkeys don't know about temperature.
Except for those guys who go in the hot springs with the
Yeah,
long
yeah,
fur,
yeah.
but that's
Oh,
about
in
it.
Japan.
Yeah, those guys are so cute. Okay, what does it mean if you're up for it? This one is problematic.
Probably you have a boner then?
Not quite. That's a good guess.
You're trying to snog
You
someone?
know, Dad? If you're up for it,
No.
it means willing to have sex. So it's essentially consent.
Yeah, if you're willing
so
to
be careful
snog.
if you're like,
Yeah.
hey man, did you want to come over later? Are you up for it? You might be sending the wrong message. That's all. I thought that wasn't good to include here.
Well, that's something we'd say here too. Say, hey, are you up for it? You know?
Yeah, but you would say it for non-sexual things. And
Exactly.
I'm wondering if you
Exactly.
say it over
Yeah,
there
yeah.
in that non-sexual context that people will think you're weird. And be
I
like,
mean, everything in sexual context is in the right framework.
true, yeah.
too, so.
Yes, if your mind's in the gutter. enough.
even hello.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. What does Bagsy mean?
Bagsy.
This is an interesting one. I had no idea. And I thought you were going to get more of these, Dad.
I'm hoping it's not someone that is like in between homes and like has a lot of bags.
No, it's actually the discount brand version of Banksy. No, I'm kidding. Bagsy, it's like calling shotgun or dibs. They said kids will call Bagsy on the playground.
Okay.
Yeah, weird, right?
That's
Remember, I left when I was 2, eh?
No, but you've been back with Mom, what?
Well,
couple
yeah,
times,
but you
right?
don't pick up slang on short visits.
No, but you seem like the kind of guy that would read this shit beforehand and try to prep to be like the cool, like. Anyways, what's a curtain twitcher?
a curtain twitcher.
Yeah, I liked this one actually. I just thought it was.
Maybe someone that's a nervous Nelly. Someone that's like, oh, I want to peek behind the curtain before the big show or the big thing.
Not a bad guess.
Because,
What do you-
I'm scared.
I'd go with him. I think that's
It's a nosy neighbor. Someone
Okay.
who's always
Okay.
looking out their window, kind of wants to know what's going on all the time. And the last one I think is very funny. Dench.
Dench?
Yeah.
I think those are Lady Dame Judi Dench fans, basically. Those are dentures.
Denchies.
Those are big fans of the old Dame Judi Dench.
So someone online was stating that it basically means whatever you want it to, but generally it's used as an equation with something impressive or agreeable. But it is a nod
Okay.
to Judi Dench.
Oh, it is? It's
Which-
from Dench?
Well,
Nice.
yeah, because she's
like,
so
oh,
accomplished,
she's-
and you know.
yeah.
So shout out to Judi Dench.
Mine would be Mirren. Oh, hey. Helen Mirren, you watching this right now?
He's available. Dame, though, this made me think that Sir is much more flattering than Dame. I feel like that should be updated
Yeah.
as this title of, it's supposed to be, it's when they're knighted, right? A woman. So I feel like that's pretty outdated. Hey, now you're an official Dame.
I mean, they should just call everyone Sir or call everyone Dame or create a new one that's like non-gendered or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I just thought updating the female one. I guess, yeah, but what is the other equivalent for Sir? It's like ma'am. It's not great either.
lady.
Yeah.
There's like ladies, lords, there's whatever. So it's, yeah. Just create a new.
Are they actually considered knighted when they're female?
I don't know. This is another thing I thought you might know because you're a
Well,
educated fellow.
it's just because it's such an old tradition. I wonder if it is more, a male thing, and they've come up with a female equivalent, but I don't. So they'll call them dame, but I don't know if they're considered knighted.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I would
That's
hope
something we could
so.
look into.
And I'm going to go one step further and say that everyone that is knighted technically is able to be conscripted by the queen to fight at any army at any time that she wants.
Crazy.
I'm going to say that
Sean
that's what
Connery.
happens once you get knighted. Yes, you get sword on the shoulders, on the head, and you're like, oh, da. But also, if the queen's like, hey, by the way, I need you to fight for me, you have to.
It's pretty messed up, especially if it's like, I guess Sean Connery's dead now, but if, let's say in his final years, if she would try and call on him in his, golden years to go and fight.
Well, if she wants someone like that, she needs to knight a few younger people.
Yeah.
I think he would have been fine. He had that Highlander experience from the 80s, you know? He knows his way around a sword or two.
How old is the queen? This is one thing I've been wondering lately because she's got to be up there, right?
She's in her early 90s, I believe. She's
Yeah.
92 or 93. around
Wowza.
there.
She's old as
I
stink.
wonder if we're going to find out she was like a robot for the last 30 years or something.
I mean, she's probably just literally getting new blood every morning or something.
Some
But
vampire treatment, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard about that like really rich people will hire young, healthy men or whatever your sex is, I suppose, that'll
get those
same
blood
type.
platelets.
Yeah. Is there any truth to that being actually like a source of vitality, or is that just like hocus pocus mumbo jumbo kind of shit?
I think it's more on the hocus pocus. There was some people who were doing it and some medical researchers looking into it, but I don't think they've found anything about
conclusive.
it. Yeah.
So you're saying I have to stop drinking young blood that I find on the side of the road? Okay.
Let the children free, Greg. They've been locked in your basement for too long. No, I wanted to go back actually to your comedy stuff because I had a few notes that I thought were super impressive. Like your credentials are pretty amazing. You have opened for Tig Notaro and Doug Stanhope.
Yeah.
So those are probably up there, but I wanted to know if you had another favorite comedy moment of yours in your career. Besides from those obvious highlights, you know.
Yeah, those were like super fun. I mean, just going to Edinburgh and then like doing like a sold out show in like a weird pub and stuff was really great. And yeah, performing with Tig, I got to do the Bronson Center, which was like a really nice venue to like huge stage to be on and stuff. Yeah. But a lot of my own highlights would probably be like just dumb produced stuff that I did myself. Like at one point I had like 5 different five different monthly shows. So I had one show a week in Ottawa, and
I remember you always posting.
Yeah, it was so annoying. I'm so sorry to everyone on Facebook.
Man. I think it's great that there's so many opportunities because people are still doing that every day.
Yeah.
If you're in the group, it's calling for spots, and you know, that's amazing.
So, and I was running this one gig at the Daily Grind, and we would do it every 2 months, and like we'd like habitually sold out and stuff. And on one show, I might be conflating this with another show, but on one show, well, from what I remember, we were well over fire capacity. There was like 60 people in a room that like barely fits 30. There was people waiting upstairs. And there was like people seated on the ground in front of the stage area, like just sitting on the ground waiting. And Mike MacDonald like popped in for like a 7-minute spot. Just like, he's like, "Hey, can I come on?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, of course."
So awesome.
So yeah, it was very cool.
Mike MacDonald, if we can do a side note, if anyone doesn't know him, go and look him up. I mean, if you're Canadian, you probably grew up seeing him on Just for Laughs and all that, but some people may have never heard of Mike MacDonald, and he's hilarious. I was recently rewatching a lot of his sets, and he really was one of the best, man.
Oh, and a lot of it really holds up too. It's not because like it's just personal, and it's not
it's
like
not topical, like
not,
you know, Monica Lewinsky or some like
it's like family humor, cruxed in like Canadiana, and like just his experience of being kind
he's
of
very
military
slapstick
brat.
too, though.
Oh, he honestly is almost clownish in like his like mannerisms, his act outs.
He runs
like,
around the stage a bunch. Yeah. He's very animated.
Yeah, I'm curious if he actually did maybe study clown at one point, because like I'm finding a lot like the more I get into comedy and like the more I learn of like certain people on stage, the more I find out if like, oh, actually they went to Golyev or whatever and like did clown school and things like that.
Or they're improv heavy.
Well, if they say improv, then I like tune out usually. Take that, improv world.
Mike MacDonald, not only was he hilarious, but it was very cool that even after he had his, it was like a kidney or liver thing, right? He had to have a transplant, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was basically on death's door, and then he came back, and we had like another 5 years of him, and he got back to doing the clubs and being as hilarious as ever. And that was sort of when I met him. I started in 2015. I think he was kind of just getting back out there.
Yeah, that was his recovery Ottawa time, pretty much. Yeah.
And I was super nervous. I just told someone this story actually because I found something on my phone the other day. I was really nervous to talk to him because of course, I was about a year into comedy. He was the judge. I want to say he was the judge in the first year of the Mike MacDonald Summer Comedy Competition, and then he died right after. But I might be wrong on that.
He was definitely a judge at it, and he would usually judge the final, I believe, too. In the summer comp.
He judged me in a preliminary round that I made it through, so I felt cool about that. But anyways, I sent him a message on Facebook like a week later saying, "Hey man, I was too shy to come and say hi to you, but it was really cool. It was such a trip to know that I was performing for you. Yeah. And I had a song that I wanted to make into a music video at the time, which never really happened. But I was so early on, and I asked him, hey, like, is there any chance if we had a video shoot going, would you play this cashier in the song? And he said, like, yeah, I'd be down. And he said, don't be afraid. Next time you see me, come and say hi. And I don't know that I ever got that chance, you know? So I wanted to say this story mainly because I keep it in my back pocket, and reading that the other day, it just kind of reminded me to jump, strike when the iron's hot, and like, don't be the guy that says, oh, I wish, you know, like I wish I had set that up or whatever. I mean, I give myself some slack because I was only a year in. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I still don't most of the time. But you know, it's bittersweet moments like that.
Yeah, I mean, and there's always times where like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But
you can't live in regret either.
Yeah. And like, it's also just very cool. Like, you had a moment with Mike, and like,
exactly.
Like, I can probably count on my hand how many like fun moments I had with him during some of his recovery. Like, I remember sometimes hanging out at the back of Yucks by the box office, like the old Yucks, and like someone would be on stage that like he would just kind of mutter to himself whatever was happening on stage. Like, it wasn't probably going well, or like they were crowd working when they shouldn't have been crowd working or whatever. And like, just the fact that like he would look over and do that like, ooh, a big eye roll kind of thing to me, and I was just like, oh yeah, this is great, because one, he knows who I am, and like, we're just like kind of joshing around and stuff, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I love that they named the competition locally after him too, because even now, like, I'm in it right now. I'm about to do my second round in a few weeks, and I still feel honored to be in the competition, and I think of him when I'm on that stage, because it's, you know, like you said, having a moment with people that are just so influential to you when you're young, and then, you know, meeting your heroes, so to speak, or whatever, and it going well is the best feeling. Yeah,
and like, for the people at home that don't know, like, he was like 24 years straight at Just for Laughs.
Just
like, no one's ever come close to that record.
Yeah.
Probably no one ever will come close to that record. Like, he was just, growing up in Canada on the Comedy Channel, like, he was just on almost every gala whenever it came on. Like, you would see Mike MacDonald at some point over the years, and it was
Well, he had such a recognizable face, giant eyebrows, and he had a couple of failed sitcoms, I believe. Though there was one called Mosquito Lake, I think, in the early '90s or late '80s.
I remember him talking about Mosquito Lake. I think that was maybe Canadian based.
Yeah, it was for sure. It was on the CBC, and it had like 7 episodes or something.
Yeah, but I know he moved to LA eventually too, and like was doing a lot of like before he got sick, he was living out of LA and like mostly doing like LA stuff and gigs and stuff, and then come back to Canada occasionally and everything.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, man, I'm glad we talked about him, because he's a guy who people should remember.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little further then. What got you into comedy, and when did you start, and why? Like, everybody thinks about it, but it takes a certain something to kind of make that, you know, leap onto the stage.
Yeah, basically my superhero origin story is I was at a house party in, I want to say, November 2011.
Okay.
And there's a comic there, Mike Curry. He's still alive, but RIP, he does not do comedy anymore. And he was a law student, I think, or something. And this girl that was having the house party was like, hey, Mike, this is Greg. He's hilarious. And like, she just kept introducing me to people that way, which is very on the spot, which is great. But before doing comedy, like, you don't notice that stuff. So anyway, Mike and I started talking about things, and he's like, oh, well, I do comedy, and I have a gig. And like, I guess he liked me, thought I was funny or whatever. He's like, why don't you come do a gig in January? It's at Ottawa U. It's environmental law students fundraiser, blah 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 thing. He's like, I got a bunch of people on it, but yeah, come do it. Like, you can bring friends, whatever.
Had you already been sort of fantasizing about trying stand-up?
I had always grown up thinking that writing for Conan O'Brien would be like the greatest job in the world.
One of the best people ever, man.
Yeah. And so I'd always wrote sketches or like what I thought were jokes. Like, just growing up, I watched so much Mad TV.
Masturbating bear.
Yeah.
That was fine. That was great.
Walker, Texas Ranger lever. Like,
so many good skits. The year 2000.
Yeah. So I was like always in that mindset. And so I like a bit of a small binder of like ideas, or not jokes for sure, but like just things.
You were noodling around.
Yeah. And so I was like, and then when he said like, why don't you do it? I'm like, oh yeah, why don't I do it? So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come do it. And I also asked though, because my buddy, someone you probably know, Logan Avery Cooper.
Yes, actually do know. Yeah.
Yeah.
He works at Absolute, right?
Yes. Yeah. So him and I like went to uni together and like around the same age and stuff. And like we both talked about it. So like he did the show as well. And so from the November till the January when the show actually happened, like we practiced like couple times a week, every week, like just working on our quote 5-minute set kind of thing, and like just work together. And it was great to have like a writing partner to bounce ideas, like do this and figure out my 6 jokes or whatever the hell I said.
No, that support is really integral at the beginning.
Yeah, and we both got to go and stuff, and like it was a good show. Like Alex Wood was on it, Tommy Fitz was on it, Peter Gunstow was on it, Jimmy Cassidy was on it, Jen Hayward was on it.
Right on.
There's a lot of people that are like old, like Ottawa legends and stuff, and like and this guy Mike I think hosted it, and there was myself and Logan and one other person that was like brand new comedy, never done comedy before, and the audience was. It was a fundraiser in the sports bar at Ottawa U, and it was just like packed with like law students. And like they're so supportive. I told 2 friends that I was doing it. I didn't tell anyone else. Was like, oh, I don't want to tell anyone. And one of them came and like she sat like right near the front, like laughed at everything I said. And like everyone, like I have a video I think somewhere, but like everyone laughed at like where they were supposed to laugh with me. But I was very nervous. Most of my jokes were not very good jokes.
But it was overall a decent first experience.
It was a great first experience, and like that kind of like gave me like a bit of the bug, and it's like, oh, I should do this again. And like, and talking to the other comics on the show, I was like, well, how do you do this again? Yeah. Because it's very like, there was a Facebook group, but there was no like.
I was gonna say the further we go back in time, the more, because I've had a couple guests like Graham K and I believe John Dorr said this too. They used to have to call in by phone, and wait and get through the busy signal and all that.
Yeah, and like there's no rules. There's no one like laying out like this is how you get stage time. This is how you do whatever. So eventually, Logan and I both got on Yucks in like March of that year. So like 2 months after this gig. Because we were again just like, let's perform together again because
well you're scared. Yeah, it's nice to have that camaraderie for sure. I don't think that's embarrassing at all. I think that makes a lot of sense.
No, we're cowards. But so we did Yucks, and like after my set, I did like I think basically the exact same set. I maybe added one joke or I don't know. But after set, Howie was like, hey, the manager of Yucks was like, hey, good job out there. Was that your first time? And I was like, oh, I basically here I did one before, and he's like, yeah, man, a lot of promise. Good job. I'm like, nice. Oh my God, comedy's so easy. This is great. And then I didn't perform again for 2 months, and I did Yucks again in May of that year, and I went on. On that first gig at Yucks too, I invited like 20 friends. So I packed the audience.
It's not bad to have a loaded room first couple times,
So that second time at Yucks, like third time overall, I went on. I didn't pack the room. I had like no friends there. I tried definitely a couple new jokes and stuff. I basically read my set off of my set list. I stared at the stool where my set list was. I didn't connect with the audience. I went over on time. Everything that was going badly basically went badly. Very awkward, not in the moment, sucked. Went over to Howard after, and I was like, hey, sorry, I didn't see the light, obviously, as everyone fucking says. Yeah. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, you went over time. I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have done those last 2 jokes. And he's like, yeah, you shouldn't have. And I was like, oh, yeah. He's like, have you gotten any practice since last time? I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, it shows. Oh. And I was just like, okay.
Howie knows how to be critical without like ripping you apart, though. He's right. You're kind of like, it's like your dad telling you that.
Yeah,
kind of shit,
it was the perfect advice, and it was like okay, this is this decision to do it or never do it again.
Yes, the make or break kind of moment.
Yeah, and like that night, went to Lieutenant's Pump, hung out with like a bunch of the comics that were like on the shows, and like they told me like where else to perform and like how to get on open mics and like what to actually do and stuff like that.
You slowly find the web of shows. Yeah, because there's a lot of smaller rooms, and if you're not in on the know.
Well, yeah, and you don't know how go to an open mic and practice, and like that's where you get practice, and then
which is so like this has been discussed on other people's podcasts, I'm sure, but that concept of like you wouldn't just go like to the Olympics having not worked out and warmed up and done all this other practice stuff. So but even that being said, there are people though that don't practice at all and they go up and they just fucking kill it. So, but those are few and far between, and not to be modeling yourself after.
Yeah, those are not
diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, those are usually the mavericks and like the once in a lifers kind of thing where they can just go up and
even they can still benefit from practicing. No one's not going to get better from practice. Yeah.
Yeah, and some people like they start and they're like, "Oh, I practice in the mirror and I do a soliloquy of every joke that I've ever written and like just like whatever." And like at certain point, like I don't do that anymore. Obviously, like I'm just like I'll write stuff and then I need to flesh it out on stage a bit too. Like how that's my writing process now, right? So it's everyone finds what works for them basically.
Yeah, no, definitely. The process is always going to be unique for each and every person. Speaking of Howard Wagman, owner of Yuck Yucks, we saw John Doerr a few weeks ago, and one of the funniest things was he started calling out to Howie. As far as I know, Howie has never done comedy or doesn't do comedy himself. So he kept trying to say, "Oh yeah, over there's Howie. He's hilarious." He puts people in body bags. They call him body bags wags. And Howie was just fuming. You could tell he was not like digging that attention. I just thought it was hilarious. Man. Body bags wags. I'm never gonna forget that.
Oh yeah, John is so funny, and Howard is really so funny in his own way too. Like, I don't know if he's ever tried stand up. Like I know
he's coming on in like a month or something. So we're gonna. I'm gonna ask him tons.
Oh yeah, get into
Someone
that.
told me he's like Mark Breslin's nephew or something.
Yeah. He's Breslin's nephew.
I didn't even know that until a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, like he helped open the Toronto club. He helped Breslin like get into Montreal in like the 70s or 80s or whatever.
I've seen pictures of Howie from the 80s.
Yeah,
he looked young. Yeah, really young. Oh man. Okay. Well, let's talk about the show that you've been doing then for the last little bit on Twitch.
Sure.
Which I will admit first that I have not seen because I'm not on Twitch. I feel like a very old geezer every time I say that.
You would be joining most of the people that don't watch it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just stubborn or I'm too busy with enough other shit, But nevertheless, it looks like a lot of fun. You've had a lot of guests that I've had on this show. People like Tavis. I wrote T. Tomps. I don't know if anybody calls him that, but Trevor Thompson, Christina Muehlberger, Tim Riel, a bunch of hilarious people. So can you tell me a bit more about the show since I have not seen it?
Yeah, so right now we are in hiatus.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes, the show is Houston, we have a problem. It's a Twitch show, and it's basically comedy, news, panel, satire, guest, riffy show. Like it's pretty everything, and it's almost like a podcast, but on Twitch and like live. Basically, I get two guests from the comedy world, or even kind of auxiliary comedy world, or whatever, and everyone presents two news stories from the week or like recent. Sometimes it's like an evergreen topic or whatever, and you just like someone will do like a 5-minute. Basically set or news presentation about it. And then we all panel up and like discuss the topic and like
so it's almost like an extended weekend update.
Yeah,
passing the ball around.
It's a little like Weekend Update. It's a little like Colbert Report was. It's a little like
Daily Show or whatever,
Daily Show Last Week Tonight.
John Oliver,
Yeah, I think it's probably closest to like Last Week Tonight. And if anyone's familiar with the podcast The Bugle,
I've not heard of it.
It's fun. It's actually where or John Oliver was also on it like in his earlier days, but it's like a UK based news podcast.
Well, you're in on the know with all the UK stuff. Right?
Yeah. So it was super fun to do. We took the summer off because like no one wants to be inside staring at a computer all summer long. Probably come back in the fall once I figure out where I live and like all that jazz. But yeah, Twitch is fun. It's a very fun way to like watch something but also feel like you're interacting at the same time.
Yes. I was going to say we've both done Codenames Live.
Yeah.
I've done it twice. You've probably done it several times as well.
Yeah.
And that's a blast. That's on Twitch for people who haven't seen that. Tim Riel hosts that. And if you ever get the chance to be on it, it's like the funnest shit ever in my opinion.
Oh yeah. It's so fun. And like, again, that's like a game show. It's very comedy game show, comedy first, game show after, but like
very structured.
And like, again, with the audience, because like they're interacting, they're chatting and stuff. It does feel like there's an audience and a vibe.
Yes.
And that was like the main thing with my show. Like I do want there to be a vibe. I want people to be chatting and like
feel included.
Yeah.
That's a smart move.
But yeah, I didn't want to do like a Zoom show, or I didn't want to do like a Facebook Live or like explicitly on that. And Twitch was just kind of the easiest thing for me to get into. And Tim was super helpful in like getting me set up on a lot of it stuff. So
yeah, I've thought about fucking around with that, or even YouTube Live. I don't know that I just have a lot of anxiety. I think is what it's come down to, is that I think that if I do a live podcast, that'll be the podcast where someone says something horrendous that I'm going to then be associated with, or I'm just going to fuck up in some dumb way, and that's just me holding myself back, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, There was one of my shows where like someone came in the chat and like was saying some weird stuff, and I was like, "Oh, let's block that person."
Yeah.
because it's like, yeah, it's live. You can't do that much. And like when I was doing Twitch too, like I was my own editing and producer, and like I was doing wearing a lot of hats with the show, so it was like a lot of stress.
I know that very well doing
Yeah.
this show. I edit everything, and I get a hold of guests and
Yeah.
try to research people as well as I can. You were a bit difficult, you didn't
Yeah,
have a ton
good.
out there. Well, that's why I prepared the British lingo thing. I thought that would be fun, but this is kind of serendipitous now because I did not really know what your show was about.
Yeah.
And just as so I have more content for us to talk about, I printed out 4 weird headlines. No
Ooh.
fucking joke. This is like, I'm feeling like a psychic right now. So let's do that because this could be fun. And Dad, if you want to weigh in on these too. The first one, mac and cheese is now an ice cream. I don't know if you guys heard about this a month ago. Do you think this is like an abomination, or do you kind of get why they're doing it? It said it's limited edition. It's been selling out everywhere. It's a joint venture between Kraft Macaroni Cheese and Van Leeuwen Ice Cream. And they wanted to combine 2 of the most iconic comfort foods to create an ice cream with an unforgettable flavor of Kraft Macaroni and Cheese we all grew up with.
I feel like that's an April 1st headline that like made it.
July 15th, 2021. It was selling out everywhere, apparently.
That's weird. I mean, I know right now Kraft Dinner Mac and Cheese or whatever has been doing a lot of that like
Flavor packets?
flavor stuff. Like
There's a cotton candy
cotton
one.
candy.
What the fuck is that?
That one I can see more. Like that, I would be more likely to try that than try ice cream that tastes like mac and cheese.
I feel like they're both just for like TikTok reaction videos and shit. It's just
Yeah.
a gag for marketing more than anyone's. There's probably one weirdo out there who's like, oh yeah, cheese and ice cream, bring it on. But
Well, that's the thing. Is it
would be
ice cream
fucking
that
gross.
tastes like it, or
Yeah.
is it mac and cheese in ice cream?
no, it's ice cream that it's just, if you see a picture of it, it's like vanilla. It looks like that, except it's orange and it tastes like mac and cheese. It sounds fucking
yeah, I don't-
disgusting. Dad, would you eat that or no?
Abomination.
Okay, so Dad's not on board. You're gone. This one I thought was great. Naked California woman rescued after becoming wedged between 2 buildings. Okay, a naked California woman was rescued Tuesday after she got wedged between the concrete walls of 2 buildings. She was discovered around 2 p.m. Workers at a nearby auto body shop said they heard a woman yelling for help, but they were unable to pin down her location, and they called the police. The cops came out, got on the roof, and looked between the 2 walls, and she's all naked, the worker said. She was in pain. She was screaming in pain. She was upside down, too.
Oy.
What? And then there's a little bit more. She was stuck in a space that was less than a foot wide, and the final statement is they did not immediately say how she got stuck or why she was naked.
Yeah, that's
Theories, gentlemen?
that is not the first image you want to see of a new face. You don't want that winking at you.
Sounds like a Florida headline. We should preface
yeah.
by saying that, but
I wonder. So was she escaping like a bedroom rendezvous gone wrong?
I gotta assume if she's upside down, she fell from the roof. But then you'd think she'd be like head exploded on the ground kind of situation.
I have a theory,
Okay, all right, let's hear it.
but you got to help me with the name. You know those guys that run around and do all those crazy jumps off buildings?
Parkour.
Parkour. So she's a naked parkour expert that
why do it
she made a misjudgment, and she didn't make
not
the
wearing
ledge.
clothes would probably be the first.
Yeah, she didn't make the ledge, and she got stuck in as she was falling. She got stuck upside down.
Very possible.
It's
But
the best theory we have so far.
naked parkour, you gotta. Oh, I think you gotta wear shoes at least. You got.
Well, yeah, I guess if they're saying she's naked, that means butt ass naked.
yeah,
I feel like the article would have stated other than shoes. You know?
I assume she was, let's say, suntanning, and then like, oh, I gotta get back to my house, and I gotta walk over this. Oh, it's only 1 foot gap. Oh no, I've tripped and I've fallen, and then I start scraping and falling down face first.
And actually, going back to what I was saying about head exploding, I guess if she got wedged, then that would imply that she got stuck before she hit the bottom. So
Yes.
she's probably got some road rash.
But I
upside
wonder-
every part of her body though.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
yeah.
god.
No, she's gonna need some treatment after this.
Yeah, I hope you're going to be okay, naked California woman. All right, well, that one was fun. This is a cool one because I know where this conversation could lead, and I'm interested in this, and my dad knows a lot about this. So, a plane carrying Biden's press corps was about to take off when the cicadas swarmed. Okay, a plane carrying dozens of journalists was preparing to take off from D.C., and a swarm of cicadas was evidently looking to hitch a ride to Europe. horde of Brood X cicadas had filled the plane's engines, causing mechanical issues that delayed takeoff. So, do you know a lot about cicadas?
Only every 11 years or whatever.
17, I heard, but I think it alternates or something. But
There's different cohorts. Some are 17, some are 13, some are annual.
so we should say that my dad studied what's it called again? I always forget.
What, entomology?
Entomology. Thank you. So him and my mom met.
Your dad's an ant?
Studying bugs. No, it's not just entomology.
Okay, give me that. Give me that sting. What's that womp womp sound?
Sorry.
But it's a weird bug, right? And I had heard on some radio show that the whole 17-year thing is because any natural predator that would come for them generally would have died before that 17 years. So it's like nature literally forgets about them. And that gives them this tactical advantage that they haven't been hunted through anything's recent lifestyle. So it's not being passed on to its young how to kill these things. And that I'm probably butchering that, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Well, what are like birds? Probably want to mess them up and like eat them and stuff. Like they're like
Yeah, but if birds only live like 5 years or maybe, I'm guessing, I don't know, probably not that long.
Yeah,
Other than
except
parrots
for
and shit.
have you heard about like the crows things? Like crows.
Crazy smart, right?
Yeah. I think it's crows. Maybe it's ravens too, but same difference. Whatever.
Yeah,
One's big,
they're
one's
very
small.
close, yeah.
They will pass on to their kids like legacy hatred. So like
memories and
yeah,
shit?
yeah. Like they will be like, oh, you see those like those prairie dogs? We hate them. Fuck them up if you see them.
Well, they can
like,
remember a human face, I've heard as well.
yeah, and they'll do that with people too. Or no, magpies. It's magpies too.
okay.
Like magpies will like pass on generational. Like, oh, we don't like this.
Bruce is terrible.
Yeah.
Fuck him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But
Yeah,
it's
birds are
very
fun.
interesting because I think that a bird, almost any bird, is something that a lot of people just write off as being this dumb creature with no level of intelligence because we're so used to seeing chickens and turkeys and a lot of dumbass birds that don't really do a lot for the larger body of creatures, as far as respect.
Check out parrots.
Well, yes, parrots would be an exception. They also live crazy long, too.
Yeah. 80 years old.
Yeah. And I guess, their mimicking abilities are pretty tight.
Also, like, think about the fact they all used to be dinosaurs. Like,
Well, isn't that weird that, like, when we were kids, that was pretty much not a thing? Or at least it was fringe paleontology.
Yeah.
And now it's, like, fully embraced. And that's awesome. I just find it's pretty crazy that that's such a short period of time passed, and it's like we completely feel differently about these creatures.
My new favorite dinosaur thing or fact or whatever is like everyone needs to change the perspective of how they would imagine a live dinosaur, because people are like, oh, here's a dinosaur and it's green and it's whatever,
Scaly
and it's scaly and it's
Picture Jurassic
ferocious, but it's like we literally have no idea, and it was just people in like the 50s that were like, this is what a dinosaur looks like. But like they could have had crazy feathers like peacocks.
Yeah.
They could have been like
Very
magenta.
flamboyant.
You don't know what kind of like cartilage and like weird stuff they could have had, that they could have looked insane.
Yeah.
And like no one thinks about like that kind of perspective shift on like.
It's so true. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a hard thing to try to picture something just from its skeleton,
But then you look at like birds now and you're like, oh yeah, that crazy ass fancy bird that dances to like get a mate or whatever. Like, oh yeah, if that was a dinosaur years back, maybe they were doing the exact same stuff.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's crazy to think about because I think the dinosaur design they came up with was probably based on like its closest living relatives, which they thought was like crocodiles, alligators, and maybe it is true. We also don't know they must have had some feathers, right? They've discovered that at this point.
I think there's been a lot of like feathers in fossils and stuff, so I think a lot of them were probably
Could be to varying degrees though per dinosaur.
Yeah, and especially like probably the smaller ones and stuff, like Velociraptor and stuff. The little tiny boy.
Well, when I was a kid, I remembered before the bird thing had been fully accepted, there was Archaeopteryx, which I always thought had a really cool name, but it was also the birdiest of the dinosaurs. Which have you ever heard of this one?
Was that like a?
It was technically a dinosaur, I believe. It was like or somewhere in between, but at the time, this was the only thing like that. So I guess it shouldn't really be surprising in the long run that it turned out this way, because there's always been Archaeopteryx, which was this weird kind of a pterodactyl but wings. Cool. But with feathers, rather.
It was one of the ones they found. I think they found further evidence as well of beginning feathers and on different. But don't forget, besides leading to birds, it also led to reptiles.
Yeah.
So
like
some of them had no feathers.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And anyway,
it's definitely a huge shift in the way of thinking about it. Because. There's other things I would wonder about. Birds have hollow bones, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Are there any reptiles with hollow bones? I don't know. I don't know why I'm expecting you to be like a reptile expert.
Hey, what
My
about
dad knows a lot of
reptiles? But
shit.
Not a
about lot of shit.
herpetologist.
Herpetologist, one of the worst probably names where it gets confused a lot. You know,
I have a bad case of herpetology right now.
or just like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a herpetologist. Like, oh, you just study
Gross.
cold sores.
Yeah.
Gross. Here's another one. South Carolina man gave child a face tattoo at McDonald's.
At McDonald's.
In a McDonald's. An alleged incident happened at a McDonald's in Lawrence, located near southwest North Carolina, or northwest rather. Authorities were tipped off that a man had tattooed a child's face at the restaurant after a customer filmed the incident and posted a video to social media. They identified the guy. He was a tattoo artist from the area. And this was McDonald's statement. In our restaurants, nothing is more important to us than the safety and well-being of our customers and employees. McDonald's said in a statement to Fox News. The conduct reported is not in line with the values of our organization or in line with our expectations for how restaurants should be run. And yet it happened in your restaurant.
Yeah,
so.
slightly. At least he was an artist. Like, at least it wasn't like someone that found a tattoo gun and then was just tattooing people willing. Like, it probably looks good.
Okay, there's so many layers to why this is fucked up. The fact that it's a kid. The fact that it's a face tattoo.
How old's the kid, though?
This is the one thing I could not find out.
like-
Because if it's 17 and they were
Yeah,
friends
exactly.
or something.
16-year-olds, like,
which
give
is
me a freeze
probably-
tattoo. Or it's like a 4-year-old. Nah, that's probably bad times.
Your brain wants to go there
Yeah.
for the fucked up headline, and that's probably what the clickbait they're hoping
Yeah.
for. But the one thing I want to know is, like, when you're just munching down on a quarter pounder and you hear, zzz, like, how do you ignore that? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm not getting
Just look
involved.
over.
The kid looks confident in his decision.
Bring up the phone, post it to World Star. Just like see what happens.
And what would a kid even want tattooed on their face? That was the other thing. Again, dependent on age,
Yeah.
but like SpongeBob, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, at one point Paw Patrol. Like,
Oh, yeah, Paw Patrol. Good Lord. Have you watched Paw Patrol?
I have a niece and nephew, so I've seen it. Yeah,
Okay, you've
yeah.
seen it. What do you think about Paw Patrol? Because there's a lot worse kids shows to be stuck watching, like Peppa Pig, and there's some
Yes.
bad contenders.
I don't think Paw Patrol is as annoying as like Caillou or Peppa Pig or
Caillou.
whatever.
Oh, God.
But it just every episode blended together that I cannot remember anything specific about it.
It's so formulaic. Yeah, that's the part I hate
it's
about it.
just
the most.
like, well, and that's what kids programming for that level.
It's so unbelievable. If you're a talking dog, why would you listen to this fucking kid all the time, you know? Especially if you outnumber him. There's like 7 or 8 of them if you count all the guest dogs that come on. Like, you could just growl at the kid all as a group and he'd probably be like, all right. I guess they love him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, have you met dogs? They usually just love people for no reason. They're
Dude,
not.
You said Caillou, and I don't think there's a more hated cartoon out there. I did not think of that one, but now that you've said it, that's the
Yeah.
one you hear comics shitting on and making jokes about all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's somewhat out of the zeitgeist now. Like, I don't think kids are really watching it as much.
Very Canadian, too. I don't think
Very
people in the
Canadian.
States
So
know it.
yeah, but yeah, that was super dreaded cartoon. That if you're ever watching cartoons and it comes on or something, and it's just like,
He's such a whiny little shit.
yeah, all of it was.
And everyone's wondering why he's bald. I've heard many jokes about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I was watching the one recently with my niece and nephew, the Blue Healer show. I don't know what it's called, but it's like an Australian like dog, like shep dog or whatever,
Okay.
and like it's called Bluey or something like that. So it's just like Australian voiced dogs doing Australian dog things.
Weird.
And it's like, yeah, this is fine, whatever.
It doesn't sound that bad compared to some of them out there, yeah.
Yeah, Australian is a pretty easy accent to take, I think.
There's some kids shows that I don't even, I just wonder how they got greenlit in the first place, you know? Like, not because, oh, well, this isn't for me because I'm a grown-up, but because, like, who would watch this, you know? Stuff like Caillou to some degree. I actually auditioned for Caillou recently, some new version. I had a voice audition. I did not get it. To be Caillou's dad. Yeah.
Wow.
Would have been a dream come
Sitting
true.
across from the possible dad voice of Caillou.
No, it's not possible. It's already
Give me a line read. Let's
Didn't go
go.
through.
Do you need a side? Do you need a setup?
I played it really, you know, clean cut, like all the voice recordings I had heard from Caillou's dad, which were, you know, well, no, Caillou, we can't go outside. We might get a sunburn or whatever, you know.
Yeah, of course he would. He's got no hair. Pale ass kid.
Put on a hat. Yeah, Caillou, ironically enough, or I don't know if this is irony, but people use that the wrong way all the time, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it. But coincidentally enough, was what I should be saying. I was friends with a guy who lived in Ottawa, and his dad did the voice of Caillou.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, his name was John Fry, I think. But yeah,
Well, I know the wild krats are in Ottawa too and stuff,
those
right?
are the animal dudes, right?
Yeah, the animal bros.
They're in Ottawa?
Yeah, they like live outside Ottawa.
Are you
like,
kidding?
Yeah. So
wow.
they film their live shows obviously all over the world kind of thing. But
I did not know that.
And like they do their animated thing from Ottawa, I think.
Wild Kratts, I'm coming for you. You're going to be sitting right here.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. That'd be a cool guest. They've been around for ages.
Yeah,
Those
hell
guys
yeah.
are legacy kids show entertainers at this point, like the Wiggles or something.
Yeah.
Shit, man. Well, I do have a couple random topics I wanted to bring up, but one of them I want to start off with is my dad always asks a question, and it started when we were doing the Zoom interviews, and I wanted to still include him because he wasn't really a part of the show at that point. So we've carried it on, and now he has his own mic and all that shit. So, Dad, give it away, and it gives me a chance to load more weed.
Yeah, load that weed up.
Well, now I think you may have already answered this question about 2 minutes ago, but I'll ask it anyway.
Okay.
In your January 2017 interview on the BAOS podcast, when you guys were looking at all that
Dug deep, man.
Kitchissippi Brewery stuff, you were introduced on that show as Uncle Greg Houston. Why the uncle?
Well, I feel like that guy is Australian as well, and it almost felt like he was just doing it as
like a term of endearment.
A term of endearment, but yeah, it was. I became an uncle like 2 years prior, so it was like relatively new, I think. Because I want to say my nephew is 7 years old. I mean, don't quote me. Check his Wikipedia. But so yeah, I was like relatively new to uncling, and like. I mean, I visited him like twice during when they were like 1 year old, because everyone knows like who wants to hang out with a 1 year old? They got nothing. But like just past one, when they're like fun and like starting to like make noises and stuff and like kind of talk but not talk, it's like that's fun.
That age to like 3 or 4 is really some of the best time with kids.
Yeah.
Man, that's so funny too, because I try to be thorough with my research, and I said even earlier in this that I found you were a bit hard to research. And then my dad shows up today and he's like, yeah, I watched a couple podcasts. I'm like, where did you find this shit? Apparently because I typed in Greg Houston comedy, and he just typed in Greg Houston, and he got to some podcasts that I did not find. So well, thanks for sharing.
There's only a couple other Greg Houstons. One is a Baltimore-based illustrator, and there's one Texas plumber, and I'm coming for both of them.
I'm sure there's more Greg Houstons than that, but okay.
There's not famous ones. Not like us.
You mean like notable?
Us three.
Wait, a plumber though? Why is he?
I don't know. I guess he's really good at changing pipes in Texas.
Shit, yeah. Oh man, there's also a Houston. We have a problem YouTube show that seems to have a decent. Like, 20K subscribers.
Is someone named Houston on the show?
Something Houston. Yeah, it's not Greg Houston at least.
Jerks.
Yeah, I don't know how long he may have been at it before you, but it's so fucking hard to avoid that, man.
Yeah, I mean it's a very common name. It's so common that they named the city after it. So like,
I actually, when I started doing Just Chill with Oliver George, I didn't find anyone doing that, but there's an Indian YouTube show called Just Chill with. I'm not remembering that, some Indian name that I can't remember now, and they've got so many subscribers. I was like, oh man, this guy's crushing me.
You gotta do a crossover.
I don't think he speaks English, but
that's fine.
Get an interpreter. Yeah, that could be fun. A couple things that are not really related to you or I, but things I want to discuss is you said to me you're a man of science. We're all vaccinated here. What are your feelings on going through with the Olympics? And I want to say specifically everyone's shift from we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be doing this. And then as soon as it starts, everyone's like, yeah, go Canada. It's just everyone switched sides. I don't know.
I was actually fine with the Olympics in the sense that I was really excited and really liked how the NBA did the bubble in 2020.
Okay.
So like I felt like if the Olympics treated it how like NBA kind of did the bubble at Disney World, where like they had they had those like wristbands on people where like people checking in and out of, like they were tracking everyone, they were testing everyone like daily. Like if they're doing all that stuff to like keep the people in that side of that Olympic bubble safe, then I was fine.
Weren't there still issues during the NBA stuff though? Were like pockets of people?
There was very few, and like they were kind of tough asses about it. Like I know at one point like Lou Williams had to sit out a game because he went to Atlanta to get like chicken wings from Magic from a strip club. So so like, and that was like, if you break the bubble, you get penalized or you have to sit out or whatever. And like same thing, the Olympics like should have just treated it like a big bubble. I don't think spectators would have been worth it. And I know that like they were just like, they were so jonesing to like be the first Olympics back / like prove.
Well, and so much money was invested for years prior probably to coronavirus and all that, but.
Well, and the next Olympics is going to be like this winter, like 2022.
Brutal.
In China. So it's like there was a big there's a lot of like socio-political malarkey about like what if China is the first country to host an Olympics after they caused a pandemic and like all this
Well, yeah, and
poli-sci junk.
even when the pandemic was first going, and then they started saying, "Oh, we're going to do like the pockets of reduced, game schedules," or like there was a lot of that going on. You would still see, especially in the NHL. I remember like Dallas had a whole thing where a bunch of people on their team got sick, and you would hear every couple months it was not totally working well. And then the argument becomes, is this like important enough that we should be doing this? But people don't consider the infrastructure and all the money involved and even the effect on the economy from shutting down stuff like the NFL. So it does seem trivial, especially to a non-sports fan, which I would generally consider myself in that camp more than a raging, paint your face, motherfucker.
I mean, I love sports. Like, you couldn't tell because I'm a fucking true nerd. I'm a cool dude. I get every culture. I know everything that's happening in this room. Yeah. But I also really like baseball. I really like Raptors. Like, I love basketball. Wrong with that, man. And like, I've already went to a couple Blue Jays games already too. Like in Toronto, because it's like I missed being at a ballpark and like just like watching players smack baseballs with bats and stuff.
Isn't that important though, to break down stupid social castes? Like there was a guy who had a store in Place d'Orleans that I used to go to. I don't know if he's still there, but shout out to whatever his name was. Yeah. I knew the guy for a long time, but just in a business customer sort of capacity. And he had a place called Entertainment Inc. And it always struck me as strange, but now I kind of applauded that he had all this hockey swag and jerseys, and then at the back he had all these comic books and like magic cards and stuff. And at first I was like, are you trying to start like a nerd jock like war here? But I think we need to move away from those like everyone stay in your lane kind of mindsets.
Oh yeah, there's honestly I mean, I've been watching too much Ted Lasso, but like whatever makes you happy makes you happy. So it's like,
well, a lot of what I'm discussing is happening with like Marvel MCU movies being like the biggest, Hollywood blockbusters, and your average person knows who Groot is or whatever.
Well, and Fast and Furious franchise turning into basically a Marvel movie. Like they're becoming superheroes powered by cars.
Versed. Like, I mean, I know about Fast and Furious and the main players and a bit of shit, but I don't know that I've ever seen more than like.
Oh, like dude, you got to watch the whole series. It's the most bankable franchise in Hollywood. It is.
But it's just so ridiculously over the top, everything.
It is. The first movie is like a solid movie, especially for its time. And it's like, it could stand alone as like, oh, this is a good movie. And like, oh, they're stealing stuff. Watch out.
But they become less grounded in reality as you go.
And the second one's like, oh, this is a bit of escapism, but this is fine. And then the third one's like, what is going on? They're Tokyo drifting for some reason. We just switched everything.
DeLorean from Back to the Future here? No.
And then by like the fourth and fifth movie, though, they realize what they are and how stupid they are, and they just lean into it.
Nice.
And then by the seventh movie, you're like, these people are just like action hero superstars that are like running on gasoline, and like they're gonna jump out of a spaceship for no reason. Like there's so like
mindless
a submarine attacks them in one scene. Like it's just like, it's so stupid, but it's fun.
It's like a B movie or whatever.
Yeah, it becomes like this like joke of itself kind of thing. Like I'm pretty sure, I haven't seen the newest one, but I'm pretty sure at one point like they swing a car on like a rope thing like off an island to get to another island or something. It's just the dumbest thing.
They haven't gone to outer space yet?
Oh, they're about to. It's got to be for number 10. They got to go to space.
Time travel would be another like obvious one. Get the DeLorean from Back to the Future. Like they find it in an old garage covered up or something. Oh man. What happened to the DeLorean in the end? Oh, it got ran over by the train, and then he made a time traveling train. I watched them recently. I forgot about that.
Those ones do hold up too. Like they're
unless you're listening to someone cut them up, because there's a lot of accurate ways to do that. I mean, the whole his mom wanting to fuck him in the first one is very. I mean, it's very Oedipal.
There's a lot of Freudian stuff that you can get into for the whole series.
But it's pitched to be this fun family movie, so I don't know if that's the place for it. And apparently, Eric Stoltz, who was supposed to play Marty McFly originally, and they shot a bunch of stuff with him, they changed him out because he apparently thought that the end of the movie was really like sad. He said, well, this is so sad. They're like, what are you talking about? Marty is now in this new present when he gets back, and he has to pretend like that he's lived this life that he hasn't really, because he lived a whole life in a different version of this reality. And he thought it was kind of like melancholy and kind of fucked up. And they're like, well, we're just trying to have some fun here. Geez. And then they got rid of him. And they replaced him. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I just watched a thing on Netflix. It's called The Movies That Made Us.
Yeah.
And those are they go deep, man. Forrest Gump one was really cool too.
Yeah, I like that franchise because it came off the Toys one, obviously, right? The Toys That Made Us.
Yes, I watched a bunch of those too. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of the movies ones yet, but that'd be interesting. Because yeah, if you look at that any kind of time traveling is like so trippy when you think about it and get into it, and you're like, oh yeah, your brain breaks so easily.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that writers choose to approach it too.
Yeah.
Certain people seem to have different rule sets for how time's supposed to work, and yeah.
Did you, if we can get into the topical, did you watch like Loki?
Yes.
Yeah, I loved it.
I've been enjoying all the Disney Plus Marvel stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen Black Widow. That's the only one I'm kind of like, she's dead already in the present.
I got to see Black Widow and it was fine.
That's kind of what I'm expecting. That I'm not going to hate it or anything, but like I'm not rushing to see it. You know.
You're not rushing to see it. Hit that sting.
Yeah, that was not on purpose, but I'll take it. Oh yeah, you're getting quicker on those, Dad. That's nice. I started watching Suicide Squad last night. Though we watched the first 40 minutes, and Kelly wanted to go to bed, so I didn't want to watch it without her. But it was fucking hard to turn off. It was.
I've heard
so
that the
good.
new one is great.
You watched it, Dad? Yep. It's so good, right? Like I'm already in love with it. James Gunn knows how to make a good movie. If you've never seen Slither, that's another great movie. I want to say it's his directorial debut, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, it was really early in his career.
Nathan Fillion and Elizabeth Banks and Michael Rooker, who's in a bunch of his projects.
Yeah.
I thought Nathan Fillion, his character was the best.
If I can, I guess I'll preface by saying spoiler alert. If you don't care, or do you not want the spoiler? Okay, spoiler alert. His name is TDK in this movie, which stands for the Detachable Kid, and basically his arms can come off and like float telekinetically, and then they just like slap people. They're just as effective as a couple of arms, but it catches people off guard, I guess. Like you would expect, though, a bunch of people die, really. Even in the first 40 minutes, I was like, oh, there goes another big name.
Does he throw his brother in it? Like he throws...
Yes.
Sean
what's his name? Sean, is that his name?
I think it's Sean Gunn, yeah.
I think you might be right, but he plays 3 characters in the movie from what I read online. He plays Weasel, which was this CGI rat kind of character.
Yeah.
Or Weasel, I suppose. And then he plays Calendar Man, which is like a Batman villain who's obsessed with the calendar, right? There was a book where he's trying to kill somebody on every holiday or something, right?
Yeah.
I read that. I can't remember what it's called now. Someone's going to yell into their screen, some nerd, but I'm a nerd too, so I should know it. Yeah, man.
Another quick note is, like most of those films, watch the credits right till the end.
Yes, I heard this morning. Yeah. No, I'm going to get back at it tonight.
Oh, you always got to watch credits. It almost feels weird when you see a blockbuster, especially like a comic booky blockbuster or something now, and they don't have an after credit scene. They
I know, isn't
don't.
that crazy?
Well, and it just like started
Set such a precedent.
Yeah, it just started as like a random thing Marvel started to do, right? Like, and just kind of like random ass movies would do as like a treat to the fans for.
This is what I want to know. Was there anyone prior to Marvel? There's probably been instances in cinema where other people beat them to the punch with this technique, but it just didn't catch on because they weren't Marvel. I would like to know other movies from cinematic history that pulled that move, you know? There's got to be some.
Yeah, can I say one other thing about the movie? It's not really a spoiler in any way, but I'm a big fan of John Cena. You know, he's
John Cena. I thought it was.
John Cena, whatever.
Vagabond.
I like.
We were talking about that before
Yeah.
the show. He was critiquing my pronunciation from a previous episode.
But I really like him. But having said that, one of the things when I was watching this movie that kept taking me out of the film was his right arm.
The vein?
Yeah. Right? What is going on with that vein?
It's a weightlifting thing.
Jesus, it's all over the place.
Like a bulbous varicose vein on his
But it's
arm.
really twisty and gnarly looking, and every time I see it, I go, what the hell? You know,
Takes you out, yeah. Why wouldn't they just CGI that out?
Yeah,
maybe?
or, you know, John, you know, they strip veins all the time. It's probably some surfacey thing. Get rid of it.
Yeah, if you got the money, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his other arm.
Some people like to wear their scars of their journey kind of
maybe,
thing,
sure.
know?
But
I bet it's from roids or something. Not to throw shade at John Cena. I don't know if he's... But a lot of wrestlers took steroids, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't blame on that. Like, it's whatever it is. You're right. Like, the veins go crazy on different people for different reasons. But
well, yes, I meant the steroids in the sense that when you have steroids, you get that mass bulking that I think results in this kind of vein.
But the key thing for me was it was taking me out of the story.
Interesting.
So I didn't like that about it. So get that shit fixed.
Yeah, John Cena.
Get
How
on,
dare you?
got the money, and my dad's uncomfortable. No, but that I think is funny because so many people will have moments like that, and then you talk to someone else, and they're like, "Yeah, you're just having an OCD moment there," you know? Which, can I say, as someone who actually has had diagnosed OCD my whole life, I'm not trying to bitch and moan, but that's one that gets thrown around. I just did it right here. Casually as this kind of like, oh yeah, oh man, I'm so OCD about that. And it's like you don't know what my fucking life is like when I'm having the real shit from OCD, you know, and it's not that I don't understand why people go there and why it's become part of the lexicon in that like capacity,
it became a catch-all for anything that's like I like how meticulous, like having like, oh, I like my patterns and I like my routines and I like my things how I like my things, and
and if you suffer from that to a certain extreme, you probably do have OCD, but there are a lot of people who just frivolously throw it out in a way that I don't think you'd be like, you know, like I guess Schwarzenegger said it, but being like, oh, my neck hurts, must be a tumor, you know, and like someone actually has a tumor. That's not a good example. There's probably a better example, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, anyways.
Yeah.
I don't really care that much. I just thought it was something interesting talking point because whenever someone says it, it kind of makes, I don't get triggered or whatever, but like crosses my mind, you know?
Yeah. Hey, respect it. At home, respect it.
Clearly, I've been obsessing about this. You are someone that, and I don't say this disparagingly, but you're someone who would be described by the youngins as woke. And I mean that because even just from your preliminary social medias, you have, you know, the right things, in my opinion. Not to get lefty, righty or whatever here, but you care about dead children and, you know, God, what a concept. And I wanted to bring that up because Don Kelly was on a couple episodes ago and a very educational experience for my father and I. And, you know, I don't know, I'm not out like helping in a firsthand way, but I can say that I'm talking about it on my show and I'm continually trying to educate myself more and more. But isn't it fucked up that the current count of dead children is like almost 6,000 right now? And people they just did the 200 and they all patted themselves on the back. And then I feel like it's kind of just faded into the background again. And I don't know, it's mind boggling to me.
And for you at home, you don't know, Canada is a racist and genocidal country, just like every other country.
Every other British colonized country, at least.
Yeah, and a lot of residential school survivors, Indigenous children, died or did not come home.
Or had traumas that they would suffer from for the rest of their life.
Traumas and have had no means of to recoup or rectify that, even though courts have been like, hey, Catholic Church, give them a bunch of money. And the Catholic Church's like, we had a bake sale. Here's $3 million. Is that good enough?
No, it's so
And
fucked,
then like no one does anything, despite the fact that they should tax the church and take away all their property.
Find the people that worked there that may still be alive and hold them accountable.
Just, I don't know.
There's an idea. I don't know.
And yeah, a lot of it was, so in this, I mean, past 18 months, everyone's like, oh, more bad news. And like their brain turns off when you get more bad news and more bad news. And it's just hitting you over the head. Yeah. And then you're like, you find distractions of like, oh, I guess I care about the trampoline at the Olympics now all of a sudden, instead of learning about more Indigenous kids that were missing
just like
and
changing
murdered.
channels late night or something. You're like,
it's a bit of a like evolutionary like saving yourself from like
defense mechanism.
Yeah, becoming too depressive or too, and because there's so much of it, like you can't do a lot more. And like doing what you're doing is raising awareness and like amplifying voices, especially marginalized voices or like more educated people, to inspire people or to educate fans and stuff like that. That's all good stuff too. And like I would recommend people to donate as well. Like there's a lot of worthy causes, especially with residential school survivors. I think it's .ca or .org. There's a lot of funds and there's like a lot of places that money can help people. And I think that's all very key. And it sucks that like
there's next of kin who are still living with the weight of these things, you know?
Oh yeah. It's gonna be a long time before we're healed as a nation. And like I hope it's within my lifetime.
Up, but we need to talk about stuff like this. Because when I saw the number, the most recent count was 5,600 and whatever.
Yeah.
And not and whatever. I don't mean to be like those last three kids.
It's too many. It's too many.
Yeah, exactly. I'm losing count. Like I can't even keep up, and it's just so. I was baffled, and I guess I felt guilty as well because I saw that number and I went, yeah, I guess it hasn't slipped off my radar, but like I didn't know it was skyrocketing.
It's not taught in schools. It's not taught in the curriculum. The history is not taught. The genocide that our first prime minister, our quote unquote maybe one of our most important prime minister, literally like tried to wipe out a nation, and like It's not taught. It's not approached, and it's.
I think it will be. I think
it will be going
there's gonna
forward.
be a
Hopefully,
lot of,
but
curriculum adjustments
Yeah.
going forward. Hopefully.
Yeah, I really, and like there's other stuff too, because like literally this week the IPCC came out with another climate change manifesto of like, if we don't do stuff right now, like everything, Earth is gonna blow up again. Like, so there's so many things that like
oh my God, that's a whole other thing. And again, I'm sure I'll lose subscribers for taking an opinion on this at all, but like, is that still being questioned when like every year is the hottest year
It's not
on
being
record for
questioned.
like some people are like, oh well, Earth naturally goes through climate changes, which is true, but doesn't mean we should not be trying to.
But that's the thing. It's not
you know.
actually being questioned. It's corporations that don't want to pay taxes and don't want to adjust something to lose their bottom line are paying people to say, oh, I question some of this.
Yeah.
It's not you and me. It's not your dad. It's not a random person walking down the street. And guess what? It's also not us that need to do something. It's the corporations that
we
have
can
made
put pressure
billions
on said
of profits
corporations,
and the governments around the world that make money all the time on climate change, on fossil fuels, on all these non-renewable resources, and have made record profits. And the 1% of the billionaires that like have had the best COVID in the world and are going to become trillionaires, those people need to do something.
Yeah.
It's not me and the, oh no, I accidentally got a plastic straw. Like that's not what's going to stop this.
Well, I totally get the point, and I would largely agree with you. But there's still the mentality of like every vote counts, kind of a
Every
thing,
vote counts, and I think
I didn't mean voting specifically.
Yeah.
I just meant that structured way of thinking about it is like you may think your small influence is
every action has
meek and useless, but
you should do the right things and stuff like that. But in our capitalist society, like you can only consume because that's just how capitalism works. And so you can be empathetic and like ethical, and like you should try and do the best you can. Recycle, reduce, reuse, recycle in that order, because that's the best way to do it. Because recycling also, no one's recycling
I've
anything
heard some
these
stats
days.
on recycling, and it's
No
not.
one's recycling anything. China stopped buying it in 2018, and now we just throw it in dumps. But
Good Lord.
that being said, why doesn't the city that instead of throwing it in a dump actually build a recycling plant instead of they used to just sell it to China? It's like,
Why isn't that just mandated? Every city has to have one, like a fire station or like a
we
hospital.
have
or
water
whatever.
treatment plants. Like there's no reason why we can't take care of our own garbage and waste. And also push back on the corporations that are like, in Toronto right now, you cannot recycle black plastic. You cannot recycle black plastic. That's what. So
It's harder to extract or
because
something?
the sensors that they use in their recycling sorting plants or whatever can't recognize it, can't see it, can't see like the number on it. So like it's like on a conveyor belt in the air, like shoots stuff and like sorts it and stuff like that. So it can't be sorted. So you have to throw out black plastic.
Oh,
Sorry.
And it's so inconsistent because here in Ottawa, you can't recycle styrofoam.
Yeah, and you can recycle.
Styrofoam.
is that recyclable? In some,
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
In
In
Toronto,
Toronto.
Toronto, it's recyclable.
This is the thing that kills me about Canada overall. Inconsistency between provinces on so many things.
You could say that about
where
the
we should be
states.
united. Oh, sure.
writ large, yeah.
But then even within a province, like at cities, like it's
True, yeah.
basically because the responsibility for certain things rests at certain levels of government.
Yeah.
And when you get down to the municipal level, well, good go. You know, I mean, you can have tons of different changes and differences between different places, and it's just so like it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make
you
sense.
know.
Like literally, guess what? Like, you can't figure out black plastic. Buy better sensors. Just buy a sensor that knows what a black plastic is.
Get someone who can invent one
or
if they don't
make
exist.
black plastic illegal in the freaking city.
Or in the production phase.
Yes,
Yeah.
like you need to do it. And that's the big problem with climate change and the environment right now. Everything is being pushed off to consumers, you and me,
Yeah.
the regular Joe, like the
our
regular person. It's our
responsibility,
responsibility to reduce, reuse, recycle. And it's like that stuff helps, but we are not the cog in the machine that turns the wheel.
Yeah.
It's corporations.
We're just like a little bit of grease, maybe, if
Yeah.
we all work
Tax
Like-
the rich.
Yeah,
Tax the
I
rich.
agree with that. Yeah.
super tax rich.
What you were saying though about provincial differences is something that I've echoed a long time from my visits to the States, especially when we did a trip down to Jersey in like the summer of 2013, I want to say. And this is a time where I believe weed was legal already in California. Maybe not recreationally, but there was a lot of states that were like, it wouldn't have been a big deal. And I remember feeling like a criminal, like the 1 or 2 times I managed to get weed, which was very hard. We went and smoked kind of discreetly in front of the hotel, and the hotel guy was like looking for us. We had to leave out the back door and sneak off to the theme park all day and come back like after dark because he was trying to find us. And I was like, I fucking was terrified because in Canada, even when it was illegal growing up as a teenager, like you could go up to anyone and be like, hey man, you know where I could get some weed?
Yeah, you're probably not going to get like...
They might say, oh, sorry, I don't smoke. But they'd never be like, in the States, I had a guy be like, what did you just ask me? And then he looked like he was going to pull out his phone and call the cops. Like, and it just baffled my mind that there's other states where they would have been like, cruise on, brother. You know, like, it's just, it felt like little countries that are all different in the States.
Well, yeah, and you look at regionally in Canada too. Like
it's very similar, yeah.
We're much more of a north-south similarity country than we are like east-west. A lot of time, like a lot of people in Ontario, I think, would really identify with like New York and upstate New York and like Pennsylvania and Ohio and kind of like that little basket of like Buffalo, former industry, Buffalo, but like maybe we don't manufacture as much as we used to, but like we're still like kind of salt of the earth. But
well,
like,
you've got Michigan or Detroit and Windsor.
Yeah,
like, you know.
and which was the exact same as like when St. Lawrence Seaway when we were building cars and stuff. Like when we actually did that, and then you have like BC that's like very similar to California and like that kind of ethos and like sushi and West Coast. I hate all their skin is so perfect and they don't get wrinkles, but like. Yeah, we're much more regional. Like, makes much more sense to group us by regions that way than like Canada from BC all the way to Newfoundland or whatever. Like
that's a huge distance. Like obviously,
it's insane. It's the second biggest one in the world. Only Russia's like So,
speaking of geographical stuff, I didn't want to miss this. I totally forgot to ask you when we were talking about your show. Are you going to carry it on and keep doing it when you move to London? Or is this kind of the show's done?
Yeah, so that's why another reason we're kind of in hiatus right now, just so I can figure out how to get over there and do all that stuff and then set up. I think so, kind of. It'll depend on how busy I am and like what the gigging will be in London. Because like if I can do stand-up comedy like most every night... I'll probably be doing that more than doing online shows. But like if there's not online shows, if there's like another lockdown or whatever, then I'm very apt to do it. And I'll probably try and time it around the same so that it's locally like within Eastern time zone, like similar to like when it was. Because I used to do it at like 7 p.m. Eastern, and that's like roughly like midnight or so London time. So
so that's not that crazy to have a show come on.
Friday night, I'm fine with that. I got nothing to do.
Even if you just do a special episode once in a while, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Every 2 months, you just get a couple of your new friends you met over there.
Exactly. And like I kind of want to do that. I kind of wanted to start doing like interview almost stuff. I wanted to. At one point, I asked someone if they wanted to do like Loki, like recap shows almost, like just a Marvel.
Dude, I thought about that too, but when I go on any podcasting sites, there were so many people doing WandaVision recap, and like every single person and their grandma like already has a podcast, but the amount of them that were doing recaps for Marvel shows is like
and bananas. That's fine. It's
if you want to do it and you have fun doing it, that's all that really matters. But it's a congested market, I noticed personally.
Yeah, and I think that probably would have just been doing something to do something where it's like right now it's like I can spend time working on material and hopefully go find a stage because like things are more open in Ontario and Toronto and Ottawa and stuff, or I can...
I love how I'm criticizing recap shows. It's like no one does sit-down long-form podcasts. I know I'm a hypocrite here, but...
Yeah.
Shit, man. Well, I think I went through everything I had to ask you, unless there's anything you want to bring up or something you want to promote or anything. I have one last question, but...
let's go back one second ago. Tax the rich. I think it should be illegal to have more than $1 billion. That's the cap. That's the thing. Because when you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, like, what do you need in the world that is going to be more than $1 billion? And so every dollars
I would say $1 million for most normal people, but
no, let's say there's a rich class house in Toronto. $1 million's gonna be a shithole. So
fine. Right. But like 100 million, could we? You know what I mean?
But even whatever, $1 billion is 100 million, right? So it's like that's it, and like just stop there. So no one is worth more. Every other dollar goes to the government or whatever. Like it was very. weird to me watching like weed get legal in Canada, and Ontario was like, okay, we're going to privatize. And it's like, why would you privatize? The LCBO is your biggest profit making machine in Ontario. It continuously balances your budget.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do the exact same thing for weed?
Yeah.
Colorado legalized weed. They paid off their roads and they paid off their school system within like 2 years.
That's amazing.
Like, I'm not a mathematician, but maybe that's the smartest economic
Follow
play.
the formula that
like,
worked. Yeah.
And like instead it was just dog forward and being like, well, I'm going to privatize because it's better that way. And then big business, everyone's like bidding for licenses and stuff. It became
It
the
was
Wild
sloppy
West,
at the
and
beginning.
it was not good.
And now I remember thinking, oh, we have 3 in the city now. And then within a year or two, it's like there's 5 in every neighborhood.
It sucks. And it's like, how much weed do people need?
And how many are going to survive when they've got that much competition at every turn, you know?
Oh yeah, you in Toronto on like a major road, you can't spit without hitting a cannabis shop, and it's like I don't
Which, like,
understand.
the teen in me is like, yay, finally.
Sure.
There's definitely moments where it's surreal, and I go, oh shit, I remember when this was not the way,
yeah,
you know?
I still go to a legal place if I need to buy it because it's like I don't want to support the cannabis license.
Convenience, you know, it has a price, and I'll pay it sometimes.
Yo,
I have
that's-
too many memories of being a teenager, and like, again, with OCD and anxiety, I would stress the fuck out. I would say even so much that I would be like, if it was my last joint, I wouldn't even enjoy it because I would already be stressed about where my next like gram was going to be, because that's usually all I could afford because I was like 14 or whatever, you know? No shade on my parents. They were great parents. That was me being a rebellious little shit. And I fell in love with Mary Jane, you know, at a young age.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had this discussion before too. It's like the chicken or the egg. Did I go for weed because I was having mental issues, or did weed exacerbate those in the long run? I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, it's still working out okay. Me and weed are still, you know, we have our fights here and there, but we're doing good. Okay, the last question I asked everybody for season 2 is if you could have dinner with one person, anyone alive or dead, but someone you've never met before, who would it be and why?
At one point I probably would have said something like Steve Martin, but like now I think it's one, he's just a fucking banjo playing hack. No.
He's pretty old now too. I don't know. He seems coherent though.
Yeah, I would probably say Bill Murray, in the sense that like Caddyshack and like Groundhog Day, like just like very formative movies in my life kind of thing. And I think his sense of humor and like his oddball, like Ghostbusters, just everything about it would probably be like a great dinner. But also like someone like Weird Al would be really fun.
Man. Great
like,
choice. Yeah.
Weird Al would be like, and I've heard he's like a super nervous nerd off stage too. Like he's very like not his stage persona. Like his stage persona is his stage persona. So it'd be very interesting to like see that kind of
I
dichotomy.
bet you're still a super nice guy though. He just
I
gives
think
off that
incredibly nice. Yeah, like
vibe.
he
He's
had,
got a lot of inner strength, because I remember reading about him that in like 2004 or something, both his folks just died randomly in a carbon monoxide thing.
Yeah,
And then he still kept going
He had a
on
very tough and
performing.
weird childhood too. Like,
Oh, yeah?
like it was a very structured and like severe and stuff like that. So like the fact that
You
he
will play the accordion.
well, the fact that he got to where he got, like despite like the box that he grew up
I'm
in,
not trying to belittle
was
trauma or whatever, but
yeah, it
the
was,
accordion does not seem like an instrument you would pick as a child or teenager. That's the joke I was
unless
trying to
you're friggin' into
Bad
polka. Yeah.
Yeah, true. No, it's a great instrument in its own right, but it's considered, you know, not exactly cool.
Yeah.
And usually kids are, to some degree, trying to not ostracise themselves with like a tuba or whatever.
But if the dinner turns into a date, then can I go with Captain Marvel? Can Brie Larson and I hang out?
Do you mean as Captain Marvel, the character?
I don't care either way. You know, as a character, if you have powers, shoot me in the face. I don't care.
So many guys have a hate boner for her. I see online all these like
Well, those guys are idiots.
Neanderthals. Yeah,
Come to me, Captain Marvel. I
seems
love
to be
you.
because she's progressive. I don't know. I remember hearing a lot of these nerds that were like boycotting Captain Marvel. They're like, this fucking feminist. I'm like, what is wrong with someone wanting equality and shit? Like, I don't know, man.
I think there was a weird, not pushback, but there was a weird counter to the Me Too movement of 2016, and it was like the nerd 2 movement of 2018 that I'm now calling, where it was like, don't watch Star Wars because it's so woke, and don't watch Captain Marvel because it's so woke, and women shouldn't have these roles. And it's just like, buddy, who gives a shit? Yeah. And it's just like, one, a very last bastion of mostly white dudes probably realizing that, guess what? Not all entertainment is focused for you.
Yeah.
Like, you are not the target demographic sometimes. And up for the past 10,000 years, yes, you have been. Don't worry. You had your moment. But now things are being made for everyone.
And in a movie where you're suspending your disbelief about a woman who can have cosmically enhanced powers, but you can't separate the actor from the character and just enjoy Carol Danvers and forget that she's Brie Larson and any, personal whatever things you don't agree with of hers. That's what I would like to see more of. People just growing the fuck up. I'm not saying you have to change your opinion, but moments like that where it's like pouty kind of,
change your opinion.
Discussion and conversation is critical. And I spoke to a friend of mine recently. I'm not going to name names, but we don't see eye to eye on a lot of those things. But I do respect the fact, and he told me the same about me, that we can have those conversations. And he said, no one ever responds well to like being insulted. Even if you think they're saying stupid ass shit, saying, hey, you're saying stupid ass shit to their face is not going to be, well received. It's just going to bring tension levels up. And I don't know. I guess that's why, like, I've mentioned Joe Rogan's show on here before. And lately, especially more and more, I'm finding myself just not aligning myself with a lot of what he has to say. But I still commend his, ability to have conversations and try to, I don't know, I like the conversations that I hear sometimes, not the content necessarily from a agreeing standpoint.
Well, and that's the thing where, like, he's kind of, I feel like, not turned a page, but like he's jumped a shark almost, where it's like he was having random people on to have random conversations that was literally everything in the world, and it's like his curiosity and whatever was leading it. But then it started to be
there's an agenda.
He's giving power to voices that shouldn't have power because they are at the expense of other people, or for whatever reasons and stuff like that. Like someone like a Jordan Peterson, I don't like. And
okay, so can you tell me, because I've never gotten super into Jordan Peterson's stuff because I don't know, there's just too many people to listen to. I've seen him here and there. I've heard stuff of his, and while I don't agree with everything he says, I have agreed with some of the stuff he says about like being a motivated individual and not sort of always looking for a window to self-victimize at the expense of others, as opposed to trying to contribute if able. There's limits. I don't agree with everything, but when I hear people that really hate him, it seems like maybe I'm missing something, that he has been on record as saying sort of some horrendous shit that I never heard. Or
I mean, I just wrap it up in the Western male chauvinist of like the ideology of like it comes at the expense of other people's. Like I succeed because you lose, opposed to where if your ideology is like we can all succeed if we raise all boats, and that's really just what it comes down to. I don't follow up on Peterson. I just know I don't like him and his meat agenda. Yeah, I just don't have time for him, and I don't want to research him and shit. But
I guess the reason that I sometimes go down those avenues is because I do think you're saying people who shouldn't have a platform, but there's always the argument, to a degree at least, that by giving someone a platform, if you're that confident that they're going to be saying stupid shit, then maybe everyone will see their stupid shit. But you're adding a mystery to them if you say, oh, don't let him speak. Then there's an allure to that. People are pulled in. Then, oh, why won't they let him speak? Does he have something I need to hear? As opposed to like, let him say his dumb shit and let people decide for themselves. But you're worried about the easily influenceable.
Yeah, I'm worried about the unvaccinated, basically, of the world. And and look at the issue we're having right now where we can't get past a certain amount because there's like 5 people on Facebook sharing like literal malarkey and not true facts and making unvaccination a huge problem. That is just that's how people's brains work at time. Like they're just easily convinced they can't put critical thought into stuff. I'm sure that I could watch a lot of Jordan Peterson or whatever, like even like these truther, like anti-vax people. I'm sure I could watch a lot of it, and I wouldn't say I like, oh, this is making me mad, and like this is tear this down. I don't want to hear any of it. I could probably watch all of it, and I would be fine. Yeah, because I can put those critical thinking like cap on, and I'd be like, well, this isn't really true, and like this is kind of based on like old philosophy or whatever. But not everyone can do that. Some people see one thing. They see something viral, and they're like, oh, that's what I think now, and like I agree with that.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at it a very personal perspective, because I feel like I will watch someone like say, I'm using Jordan Peterson as an example. I really haven't seen much of his stuff, but and I can watch something and not agree with a lot of it. But then if I still find a sentence even that I find beneficial to me, even if I take it a bit out of context, to me that's how I look at religion. I'm never going to be like, hey, I'm Christian, baptize me, baby. But there's still shit in the Bible or in multiple religions that I go, I can still use this. There's wisdom here surrounded with a bunch of bullshit.
We both do stand-up comedy. We've both seen comics go on there and just be utterly horrible, like sometimes racist, sometimes sexist, homophobic, whatever. And like, but maybe they have one good line in their set too, and you laugh at it because it's like, oh fuck, that was a good line. This horrible.
But there's people that won't. There's people that will say, they'll say one thing they don't want to hear at the beginning, which is maybe heinous, maybe not great, and then they'll just sit there like this, and they're just closed off to that one good line now.
And they don't listen to all those lines too, and like, but that's the thing, and like, there's certain aspects of, I know what I'm getting into when I go to a comedy open mic, and I know there's going to be a lot of quote unquote like incel dude comics there just ripping on women and stuff like I know what I'm getting into.
And all that,
I can have the critical thinking of like laughing something in a vacuum that might be funny said by someone that's like, ooh, probably a bad guy or whatever. Or
so
like,
wouldn't teaching people how to think critically be more important than silencing voices? Is kind of, I guess, what I'm putting forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think it's not an either or, and that's a main problem.
It's true. Okay, yeah.
And it's really not like, and that's the thing. Like, we're trying to like, it gets into like the free speech kind of like dialogue of like everyone.
Subject,
yeah, and it's like, who cares? No one's coming after you. No one's getting canceled. No one's free speech is being attacked.
Yeah.
Like, guess what? You can still find an audience, and you can still do whatever. I'm saying stuff with like Joe Rogan. I don't know now. I don't really care what he's doing, but like I think he could take a responsibility to not give those people platforms.
Yeah.
And that's not silencing. That's just taking away Joe Rogan's platform. Yeah. That's taking away a bunch of audience of Joe Rogan who are very, very easily influenced, as we can tell. Like, his fans are so into his world, and like what he says is biblical almost. Like, so
I felt the need to distance myself from, when the show started only a couple of years ago, I was much more into his show, and it was, like you said, much more broad topic, like historians and scientists, and I found it quite interesting a lot of the time. And he wasn't unlikable. I never really was a huge fan of his stand-up, but I've seen Fear Factor, I watched that shit. Like, I didn't have anything against Joe Rogan, but lately, ever since the Spotify switch is when it seemed to really stop being fun, and it's all agenda. And
a lot of that's like, turns out having people mad at you and having people sad or afraid of is very good for ratings. It's great. It gets people butts in seats. It's just like, it's the same reason why like churches are so successful, because they're telling you about all this bad stuff that used to happen, but if you pray, it's a great time. So it's
like when Spotify, several employees said that they didn't agree with them taking on Joe Rogan because of transphobic remarks, or what they deemed transphobic remarks. And I don't know what the remarks were, so I can't speak to that. But do you think Spotify hated that coverage? Fuck no. Like, you know what I mean? Any publicity is good publicity.
It came up, I was having drinks with buds last night, and it came up like the Matt Damon thing, which was very topical. He, quote unquote, just learned last week from his daughter that he shouldn't say the F word anymore. It's like...
What? Oh, not fuck. Okay.
Yeah, the other. And it's like, dude, it's 2021. You just learned? No. You have a movie that just came out.
Can we sidebar why, just because it ties into the UK, why is it still okay for them to use that word for cigarettes? Just because of the different meaning? I don't know.
Yeah, man. It's the same as like we say fanny over here. You can't say that over there.
Yeah, I suppose. It just seems weird that the world is connected enough now that you would think...
Believe me, most of them don't say it over there.
No, eh? Yeah. Okay, well,
so
this is sort of what I was wondering,
Yeah, no, they understand that, like...
Let's just say the N-word meant a beer, Hey, pass me I'm not going to say it, but I would say, even if they're steeped in tradition and it means something else, I'd be like, well, but there's the internet, you guys know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's like, a lot of that, especially with like free speech stuff, that I find is like, are you doing this out of ignorance, or are you doing this to get a rise out of someone? I'm fine with someone's free speech if they are just speaking freely, not to put someone down or not to do whatever, but like maybe they don't know something that is wrong.
Yeah.
That like their thought process, their experiences.
Sort of an honest mistake.
Yeah. Like I go to the UK and I'm just like, my fanny. And I just start talking about which is, by the way, at home, it's a swear word in the UK. It means vagina. Like,
which sucks if your name is Fanny. Because that's, I think, a woman's name in some cases, right? Yeah. So imagine being named like, Fanny and moving to Britain. That would suck.
But like, yeah, if you don't know that and you go there and you start saying around kids and stuff, people will be like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like,
luckily, the word fanny as used for an ass is pretty, like, only your grandma would say that at this point. Oh, I fell on my fanny. Like, I've never heard one of my friends say that. So you can avoid that one pretty easily. But But the one we were talking about, the F word, as you called it, I don't know. It just seems like bad taste at this point, and I'm sure there are still people who use it.
And also someone that's like Matt Damon, like he was like, I have a documentary about saving the world's water. Like I have this. I've been a Hollywood star since the '90s or whenever the Saving Goodwill Ryan Hunting came out, and like it's just like, dude, like. You know, you shouldn't be saying this to anyone. Yeah. Your daughter didn't need to be like, I'm going to not talk to you if you keep saying this. Yeah. And then he's like, I'm going to have a press conference and I'm going to announce this to the world.
Because he discovered it. Yeah.
It's like, no, dude, you had a movie that just came out and you want to put your name in the headlines.
Oh, you think it was all just
1,000%.
Oh, I don't know. He could have just been an ignorant asshole. I don't know.
Well, and they... But I mean, who's your PR firm? Who's your PR firm that's like, oh, you just want to be an ignorant asshole and like you want to do a press conference because you were just ignorant and dumb? Yeah. No, it's like the press conference like, well, we just had this movie come out and you play like a white collar.
Yeah, that's true. Stillwater.
Like a little good old American boy. So, you know, even good old American boys can learn not to drop a slur.
Yeah, it's like, but that's not really a bad thing then in the long run if it works on a few of those. Good old American boy.
Hey, if someone sees that and like, I should also stop saying that word now because of Matt Damon. That's great.
That's what I'm saying. It's corrupt from the standpoint of the agency that put out that shit. But
yeah. And like his thought process, if that's actually what he's, it's like, oh man, dude, 2021, man, like, come on, like.
I know some people are just. I think that's the thing that really needs to be exemplified is people being more willing to change and learn and not. Because the main reason people don't want to learn is because they're embarrassed. They get caught in a situation where they look stupid, and people go, "Oh, I'm gonna get all defensive now because I don't want to look like a dumbass." If you just embrace looking like a dumbass, you'll learn a lot of shit.
Dude, watch my set. That's all I do. Like,
I want that on my tombstone.
And that's honestly what's great about comedy is like we understand that a lot of the times we are the butt of the joke.
Yes.
Like we are the punchline because we did something stupid in a moment and I'm retelling I'm just retelling a random room of 400 people that have never seen before my stupid things that I've done in life.
Comedic shortcomings,
Yeah, and like that's just part of the world and like I have no problem being an idiot and like, oh, I didn't critically think about this correctly, so I'll have egg on my face, who cares?
Yeah.
But other people like they're too ego driven or whatever that they like can't be wrong and don't want to, and then they get stuck in bad opinions or bad perspectives and they won't change.
Or they have mental breakdowns from everything having to be perfect and not being willing to have that flexibility of failure that, you know. Anyways, that's a great note to end things off on. I think that's a positive way of looking at things. And thanks for coming by, man.
Oh,
this was
thank
a blast.
You so much.
A high five since we can. We're vaccinated and all that shit. I don't know. See you later, guys. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye.
We're going to play on the arcade now.